So that's the old music again, and there's a reason why we started the show with the old music. For those who followed the podcast for any significant period of time, that is How Hard I Try from Ball and Chain.
That's
and
right.
It just so happens that the man behind that original music, Charles Bunce, is here with us.
Hello.
Yes, and that's because he has produced a film that we're actually talking about this week on the podcast. So when he's gone, we will slam it. The film is The Black String with Frankie Muniz. Charles, welcome.
Thank you.
And your director, Brian Hansen, is with us by phone. Brian?
I'm here. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me, guys.
Absolutely. And a quick little also backdrop here. So Charles also runs the film department at Mount St. Mary's University, where I have taught and where Tim teaches.
Yes. I love that university.
And
Is this like our disclaimer where we say how we all know each other?
yeah. And I was gonna, where did you begin working on movies, Charles?
Well, funny you should ask. So growing up, I got into film. Wade had a huge impact on my kind of love of movies, and my first quote-unquote real films that I worked on were Wade at UCLA
Oh my
Film
gosh.
School, and my first brush with what would become kind of, I guess, film celebrity with J.J. Abrams on the
Mr. Petrified
Yeah,
Forest.
Mr. Petrified
Matt
Forest.
Reeves film.
yeah.
Yeah, which it's kind of weird where everybody's gone. Matt's doing a Batman film, and JJ rules the universe, and for some reason I'm here talking into a microphone. So anyway, let's talk about The Black String, which just won some awards.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Brian take that. Do you want to toot your own horn, Brian?
Well, we've been doing our festival kind of circuit before the release on Tuesday, 9/24, so we're trying to cram it all in there. And the team's been flying around the country to attend. Everyone's got to go to a different festival because sometimes they're landing on the same weekend. So last weekend we had Charles and Kaylee, another one of our producers, and Chelsea, our actress, and Blake, our actor, went out to Film Quest in Utah, Provo, Utah. Very great, a really cool genre fest. And Frankie Muniz won Best Actor there. And at the same time, I was in Atlanta for the Atlanta Horror Film Festival, which is part of the Atlanta Film Series. And there we won Best Feature, and then I won Best Director. So it was a great weekend for The Black String.
That's
Congratulations! Terrific. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Tell us a little bit about the movie. What's the movie? I think we know the genre and whatnot, but walk us through it. What the hell's going on?
Well, the best way that I can summarize it is it's a Rosemary's Baby type movie, or a Jacob's Ladder, or a Black Swan, where you're watching this protagonist. In our case, it's Frankie Muniz, a kind of lonely 7-Eleven cashier stuck in the suburbs, never left his hometown after high school. And you can tell that he's damaged in some way. He's very lonely, isolated, and there's some sort of trauma in his past that his friends and family seem to allude to. We don't quite know what it is. And he's so lonely that he calls a 1-900 number one night, like adult chat line. This leads to a blind date with this beautiful girl, mysterious girl. And they go on this blind date. She disappears. And he starts to obsess and become very paranoid because he gets ill after their blind date. So he thinks, here's the Rosemary's Baby part. He thinks, wow, I've been set up. I think there's something occultish going on, and I'm the target, some sinister plot, and everyone in his life saying, no, you're having problems again. It's time to take the medicine and talk to psychiatrists. So it's one of those kind of a double-sided coin. Is this mental illness, or is he really being targeted by this sinister occult plot?
It is. I have to say, you guys pulled an amazing amount of production value out of what you had. There are films that are substantially higher budget that do not have the level of effects that you guys got out of this. It was really, really very effective.
Thank you.
Talk about approaching it from a logistical standpoint. It's not like you've got Paramount behind you and writing you a big check and saying, we want it to be a Paranormal Activity and look low budget, but we'll write you an $80 million check if you need. You guys had, you had limitations. How do you work with those and get the most out of your production value?
Well, half of it is definitely, Charles Bunce can talk about how much Mount St. Mary's really supported the film. But outside of Mount St. Mary's, it was really calling in favors. We did a mentor of ours, Mark Solaroff, who teaches. He's a producer, but also has this no-budget film school. And he really taught us that micro-budget approach, like, you got to shoot with what you got, So, believe it or not, we looked around, and we looked at our scripts. It's like, my God, we have so many locations. This is not that, like, one haunted house out in the woods or grandma's attic, let's shoot here with 2 characters. That's the smart thing to do. We had 25 characters and 13 locations, and part of it is we didn't know how rough that was going to be, but believe it or not, 90% of those are like a friend's house, and or like a really cool location spot that had deals for student filmmakers, because we were shooting this as a student thesis as well. It kind of morphed and got bigger, but it was just a lot of favors and a lot of cool people. But Bunce can definitely tell you how much Mount St. Mary's helped out.
Yeah, I mean, as a department, we were able to use a lot of location shooting on campus. And so we had a lot of stuff, things that you wouldn't necessarily like expect was the campus. But we also, at one point, Frankie's character ends up in a mental institution. And so, Mount St. Mary's, our Shalon campus up in Brentwood, it debuted, I think, as a mental institution in Mel Brooks' High Anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
So, we were tapping its roots, going back there. And so we had a lot of great like location support. The film department was able to lend some equipment support. So things I think where normally more money would have been going out, we were able to save that money and put that money in other places because of the access and resources we had as students and being part of the school.
And I can tell you that the production value that you get, because Charles was also wonderful in lending a big chunk of that campus to my production. And production value is an insane thing, particularly when you don't have to pay for it. And it really just sort of ups the production value of everything. That's a $100,000 day shooting on that campus. In an ordinary sort of studio circumstance, that's a $100,000 day. So when you take your film out there into the world, you start at $100,000. You got this scene. And you work your way up from there. And
just as a plug, right, if you enroll on our programs, you get that access.
Yeah.
So... that's good. Yeah. So I want to know from each of you, what was the most difficult part of this film that you did not foresee, both as a director and a producer?
Oh man, you go first. Yeah.
Yeah, there was definitely on the production part where we had our challenges, but the post then had its own challenges. And Charles and I and Kelby have spent some long hours getting our hands, like digging into technical things we never thought we'd have to explore before. But during production, the one day that really stands out is string pull. We call it up at Blue High Shack when Frankie's pulling string out of his arm. But we also shot him walking through and talking to the psychic Melinda. So we scheduled that for one day. And to be fair, the string pull could have been one day. Just the makeup effects could have been one day on their own. And we scheduled them for about 4 hours. So when we dived, I mean, it ended up being a 16-hour day. And believe it or not, everybody stayed in really good spirits. We had in and out. We got it done. But there was a point when we were getting through like the storytelling of dialogue and all of that, and it's like a full day has already happened. Like now we're going to get into the crazy makeup heavy effects, and it was like a real come to Jesus. Oh my God, what did we get ourselves into? But we made the decision we can't come back to this location. We don't have the money. Let's just get it done. So we dove in and we did it. And I look at Frankie; he does a fantastic job. But on set, I mean, we were like into our 15th hour, but it doesn't show on Frankie or Melinda or the makeup effects. So that was a tough one. We got through it.
Yeah, that was a brutal day. And then, like Brian said in post, like we have this room at our Sunset Gower location for the program. That's it's kind of like a mini like dub space basically for sound and mixing, and we pretty much lived in that space for like weeks on end to get the crammed into the space, working with sound, but and just a lot of pickup stuff. We shot it like principal shooting was done, like we wrapped in 18 days. But then we had like day after day of pickup shots or a lot of VFX stuff. So there's this, without giving too many spoilers, that at some point Frankie starts thinking he's seeing these portals kind of appearing, and trying to lock down the portal look. And we're always trying to approach it as practical as possible, but a lot of reshoots with, like, I have in my office right now this fantastic like big physical hairy looking bubbling portal thing that we loved it, but then it just wasn't working, and so we have doing more stuff with kind of this black ooze, and so just a lot of like reshoots and playing, I think, with that. Like the post stuff really became a lot longer, I think, than any of us expected.
More trial and error, in other words. Yeah.
Film scheduling is a hell of a thing. Christy
Christy
could help you out on that day there. She'd have told you, what? This is not going to take 4 hours.
But sometimes you only got 4 hours.
Yeah, you got to figure out what
you
to
have
do.
to figure out how to do it. I remember while watching it, I was thinking, this is like Clerks gone wrong. Right?
I was talking to Charles a little early, and he told me about the process of getting a hold of Frankie. Yeah. People are always interested. How do you get a movie star, television star, movie star, to be in your little independent film? Talk to us a little bit about how you got Frankie.
Well, that is all thanks to our casting director, Jeremy Gordon. So we were going to do like mini, which I've done every time for short films before. I'll sit through, and you can cast in Los Angeles. You can cast it yourself. It's a lot of work, but you can do it. However, on this one, people smarter than us are like, this is a feature, you need to get a casting director. And we heeded that advice. So we found the right guy, Jeremy Gordon, who has done a lot of work as a casting associate on like really big movies, but he's been in the last couple of years striking out as a casting director himself. Not baseball striking out, like Oregon Trail striking out.
Yeah.
And he was able to get our script to so many agencies we could have never done. We could have never had that access, but he has those relationships. And it just so happened that as we were auditioning, a lot of really solid, great actors that are more like, they're coming up in their career like TV co-stars, building up that resume. And as we did like 2 weeks of auditioning, and right when we felt really good about a choice for Jonathan, our protagonist, Jeremy said, talking 11th hour, hey guys, hold on, I got a name for you, Frankie Muniz. And we're like, what are you talking about? Where has Frankie been? I thought he was a race car driver now. Like, we were so locked in. We had spent hours and hours of our time really trying to make the right decision on Jonathan, and all of a sudden, Frankie Muniz is dropped as a name. And having worked in distribution, I knew the importance of name talent. So it was like, even though we were about to hire someone that day, no, stop the presses, bring in Frankie, let's see what he can do. And he right away gave such an amazing read, only having the script for like 24 hours. And then eventually he had driven out from Arizona, and so humble and like very excited about this project. And he came back the second day and he owned it. And it was like, you've got to go with Frankie. And it was a last minute adjustment in our expectations of the look of the character, and he has a more charisma and a bigger personality than we expected from Jonathan, but that's okay because he made it a very unique. He made it his own, and we wouldn't be here without him right now. So it was a last-minute decision, and Bunch, you can probably talk about how Frankie is kind of excited about the movie and how he's responded to getting the opportunity.
Oh yeah, it's awesome to see and to hear from Frankie like how much he loves it and appreciated it. He always talks about how it's his favorite script, and for him, it's a different character than he's ever played before.
Oh, it ain't Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Isn't it interesting because Charles, you were saying that Frankie came in, did have a different set of ideas about this guy than you guys were envisioning, and I wanted to talk about this too. How did you make that decision to lean into what Frankie wanted to do, which meant leaning away from this idea that was already in your head?
Well, in the again, for a few hours, like I was saying earlier, we debated. We were like, I don't know, like he's against kind of how we all pictured it, but then we slapped ourselves and said, this is Frankie Muniz. This is he has a name and a persona, and he's going to bring a cachet to the film that we would never get otherwise. And so, it's in the end, it was really just going with Frankie Muniz. People are going to know Frankie Muniz, and the fact that he killed it in the auditions. I mean, he brought this energy that we just didn't. We weren't just expecting, is all. And he brought it, and then the film is Frankie. He really kind of owns the film, and he. I think part of his kind of background or people knowing him as persona as Malcolm in the Middle, I think that helps endear audiences that grew up knowing him as Malcolm. I think that it endears you to the character quicker, and I think you feel more, I think, for his character knowing that. In some ways, you can kind of watch it as like a where is Malcolm now story, and he's not in a good place.
There's also something though where, especially where films like this are concerned, because everything is about seeing the movie through his eyes. You're completely immersed in his. I mean, he's in every single scene. So if he's cast wrong, the movie doesn't work. And if he's not on his game, the movie doesn't work. So, I mean, there's a certain anxiety, I think, as well for both of you, that you realize if this isn't working, if this actor isn't working, if he's not there, we can't fix it in timing, we can't fix it in post, we can't fix it in the mix. There's no fixing it. I mean, it's do or die, right? It's
a lot of pressure, but I mean, I'd say we pretty much knew what we were going to be getting. I think from the auditions.
See, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, do you feel differently? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, from the design of the movie, when it was originally conceived, like a decade ago, with my buddy Andy Warner, him and I, we knew we wanted to put this paranoia. Is it real? Is it not real? Story together that was seen through one, the protagonist's point of view. So we realized even back then, wow, there's a lot of things. If you're going to tell a story this way, there's a lot of things you can't do, and it's going to ride all on this character. So then when I met Rich at Mount St. Mary's, I was in the Army and used my GI Bill to go back to film school. That's how I met Bunce and Kaylee and Rich Hamley. The movie, the script kind of, I mentioned the script to Rich, and he really liked it. So we decided to co-write it and make it a thesis project, which is where we got working with Kaylee and Bunce. But at that, again, it was like, wow, this Jonathan guy is in every scene. It's all through his perspective. So we always knew that the onus was completely on Jonathan. So when we went into the casting process, we were very well aware of that challenge, and knew that whoever we cast was going to have to be incredibly entertaining, intriguing, and even make the small moments interesting to watch. Because the guy's going to be on camera all the time, and he can't be doing backflips in big gunfights every single scene. There are no gunfights, by the way. So it's like, it has to be a guy, you just look at his eyes and you're intrigued. Because he's going to have that much screen time. Everything he does needs to be intriguing. And Frankie has that. Well, you just look at Frankie and you're like, what's going on in his head?
Well, and on the first, so there's one kind of pivotal point in the film where Frankie's character essentially has a mental breakdown, kind of like you see him breaking on screen. And he's trying to explain what's going on to his friend. And he's losing it. He even calls it himself. He's like, I know this sounds crazy. Like, I sound like I'm crazy. And that was the first day. Like he shot that the first day. And so if there's any doubt about the intensity and what Frankie was gonna be able to do, like the first day he brought it. We're like, all right, I mean, we're in for the ride.
Now, Brian, you mentioned Rosemary's Baby early on, and I remember thinking, watching it, this is very Polanski-like, but it wasn't Rosemary's Baby that I was thinking of. It was The Tenant.
Ah.
So, because Polanski in The Tenant, as an actor in his own movie, goes through a similar kind of a breakdown. And finds things in the teeth in the wall, you know. So I mean, there's a similar kind of a trajectory. I'm curious, to what degree was Polanski kind of an influence on this overall?
You know, Repulsion, Rosemary's Baby, and The Tenant, for sure. All of them. They call that the apartment trilogy. Or something to that effect. Definitely were inspirations. And I mean, let's be honest; those movies, I'm not the only one. It's like maybe he almost helped define that paranoia thriller,
right,
type feel. But what I loved about it is that those movies don't try to be horror, and it's surrounded. You know, you have this character who's really in crisis, but surrounded by such vibrant, all the other characters are so vibrant. And there's a life. The movie doesn't have to feel at all moments like it's a horror movie. Like, you've got, you know, characters that are funny, that are goofy, or are brooding. They could be anything. And we wanted to make sure that all of our supporting characters were living their own life and are interesting to watch. I think that's where the real thing that I got from Polanski is there's no wasted character. There's no one that just walk in and out, you're done. Every character is thoughtful, even if they're just dropping a cup of coffee on the table. Everybody adds something, and it has an energy, and it feels full and dynamic. So that's what we really, really wanted to have, that same experience where everyone you look at in our movie is like, ooh, are they in on it, or what are they all about, or what are they up to? That's
terrific. Guys, thank you so much, Brian Hansen, Charles Bunce, director and producer of The Black String with Frankie Muniz. It is Muniz. Can we get the pronunciation right? Because that's it. Is that it?
Muniz is how
Muniz. Okay.
I don't know. Frankie might come back and be like, guys, you messed it up the whole time.
Whenever I see him, I just call him Frankie Baby.
There you go.
Yeah, whenever I see, hey, Frankie Baby, what's up?
Well, good luck with the film. It releases on DVD on the 24th, and good luck with it going forward.
It's going to be around and about at some festivals and whatnot. We have a big audience kind of all over the country. Hit a few spots where it's going to be playing.
For the Los Angeles audience, Shriekfest on that's Sunday, I think the 29th, right? This coming up September.
September.
Okay. September 29th, right? As Shriekfest, we've got the GI Fest down in San Diego, which is is that Friday?
Yep, that's we're doing that 9/27 GI Film Fest down in San Diego.
And we got, for those, I don't know if you guys get people like, you know, east of the Rockies, but but New Orleans, we're playing on Thursday at the New Orleans Horror Festival. On Thursday, the 26th.
Great.
And wow, there's a couple others that may come through as well.
Okay. Sweet. Yeah. All right. Well, let us know. Yeah, let us know, and we'll keep we'll announce it on the show as they happen.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having us.
Thank you guys.
Thanks
Terrific.
guys. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
All right, and now that interview is over, we can say what we really think of Black String.
It's fantastic, actually, is what we think of it.
It really is. No, I'll tell you, the Black String is and again, with all conflict of interest aside, obviously, but if you want to see how to put together a really cool, low budget, intelligent, psychological horror film that gets a lot. I mean, it does not look like it's low budget. It doesn't. It looks like they had a really decent budget, and it's well shot and it's well edited. And Frankie does a terrific job. He really does. He brings that Polanski depth to it, and it's not at all one of these kind of quickie throwaway low budget horror films that just come out on DVD all the time. It really has some intelligence to it.
Yeah, well, I hope people were paying attention. Basically, it was a 10-year project.
Yeah.
That he worked on the concept for the script and worked all the way through the grad school program, and it took a decade to get that thing done in a decent and good-looking and good-sounding sort of way. So these things take time.
They unfortunately do,
but it pays off.
But it does. It definitely does. So, Frankie Muniz and the Black String, and they've got a commentary on it with Brian and Charles as well. So, if you didn't get enough of them just now on the podcast, they do a commentary as well, and it's a really good commentary. There's featurette and some deleted scenes and alternate takes and the usual kind of extras on there, which will be more meaningful if you've listened to the interview.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that. You know what? We're gonna shift right now, and I'm gonna go through some music this week because there's a whole bunch of music, and a lot of it is really, really, really worthwhile. I think all of it is worthwhile. Obviously, a lot of classical, but we also have Teddy Pendergrass. If you don't know me, Teddy, the rise, fall, and resurrection of soul's sexiest superstar. It is kind of weird that he's fallen out of the conversation. Teddy was a big deal when I was growing up.
Oh, in the early 80s, there was Teddy
goodness.
Pendergrass. I mean, hey, look, if you were a black man of a certain age and you wanted to hang out with a black girl of a certain age, you went and bought yourself this thing called a cassette. Look it up, kids, with some Teddy Pendergrass on it.
Yeah.
You take your girl to a Teddy Pendergrass concert, you're a boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was that guy.
It really, I mean, just it's so gifted. Anyway, this is basically the story of a man who was a remarkable R&B figure for a very, very long time.
Well, before he began, because he was Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. Well, before he was
actually believe it or not, and from the 50s forwards, and certainly with the advent of Motown, music was dominated by black artists throughout the 50s and 60s primarily. And, there are so many who were so successful, it may come as a shock to people that Teddy Pendergrass was the first black recording artist to have 5 consecutive platinum albums.
Yeah, I did not know that.
5. He was the first.
That's
saying a lot. That's really, really saying a lot. And then, of course, there is, and this isn't giving anything away, but it all ended in 1982.
Yeah,
when he was on the cusp of stardom that nobody had ever imagined,
including a film career,
and he was paralyzed in an accident.
Yeah,
and it's just absolutely devastating. It's just so devastating. And it doesn't really end there. There is a little coda to that, but it's a really, really wonderful disc. It's a Blu-ray. This has been at a number of festivals, and it is really worth checking out. Teddy Pendergrass, If You Don't Know Me, the rise, fall, and resurrection of soul's sexiest superstar. Then we also have Slash featuring Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators, Living the Dream Tour. This is a CD set with a Blu-ray on it, which includes the live in London and behind-the-scenes stuff. Look, Slash isn't everybody's idea of a good time, but he's a fixture and he's still around. And if you just want to see him just rip it and shred that guitar like nobody else does, it's still a thing. Guitars are not as much of a thing now. They'll probably make a comeback someday, but Slash doesn't care. He's out there ripping it up. And then we've also got, while we're on the rock and roll thing, we've got a film called a rockumentary. I don't really, like that term, but whatever. This has also won a bunch of awards. It's called Mock and Roll. And this centers on a parody band called Liberty Mean in Ohio. And I can't say that this is the Spinal Tap level, but it's, if that's an itch that you have and you need to scratch it constantly, and Harry Shearer is doing a throwback tour right now as well for, his Spinal Tap character. So anyway, throwing this in there just because we're talking about Slash, Mock and Roll, kind of a, silly wannabe low budget Spinal Tap type thing. It's got some interesting music in it. It's not great, but check it out if that if that's your particular thing. Then on the classical music front, we have the absolutely amazing Ron Howard documentary Pavarotti.
Oh, wow.
Tim and I love this film.
Yeah.
We really do. I think this stands a really good chance of being in the Oscar mix. It's
It's a warts and all.
it is. It's warts and all. It's a straightforward biographical documentary about Pavarotti, archival footage, his marriage, his kids, his affairs, the whole thing, all of it. And his father, that's where he got his love of opera from his dad. And it is warts and all. I mean, he's an amazing figure, but he is not a perfect figure, and this really exposes it all. It is a fascinating look at what it means to be an artist, especially in the world of opera. So Ron Howard, not known as a documentarian, but this is on Blu-ray and DVD with a digital copy on it. From Lionsgate, that means the digital copy will be iTunes and Vudu, not on Movies Anywhere, and it is great. It is really, really a tremendous documentary. High praise. And they've done a great job of giving it all that sheen so that it really pops on Blu-ray as well, even though a lot of the source material is standard def because Pavarotti, in the old days of doing his PBS shows and whatnot, there's no HD there, but still looks really, really great in HD. And then quick burning through a lot of the Naxos stuff here. We've got the Bertold Goldschmidt opera Beatrice Cenci. That is very nice to look at. I don't really understand the story even after watching it. It's a whole kind of Catholic Church history thing, but it's with the Vienna Symphonic Orchestra, conducted by Johannes Debus, and that's on Blu-ray. We also have The Barber of Seville by Rossini, as performed at the Arena di Verona, and this is wonderful. This is with the Arena di Verona Orchestra, Chorus, and Ballet. Got to tell you, I just enjoyed the fact that this is in that old arena in Verona, and it's really quite an amazing place. It's a nicely staged version of The Barber of Seville, but as for The Barber of Seville, I can't really watch it as an opera because I've seen The Rabbit of Seville too many times. And I just picture Bugs Bunny, and it's too much. And as long as we're on the subject of the Arena di Verona, the Volume 1 of the Arena di Verona collection is also out, and that includes Verdi's Aida, Gounod's Romeo and Juliette, and Puccini's Turandot. And again, all beautiful productions, beautifully staged. But you're watching it for that amazing arena in Verona. It's just, it's extraordinary. It really is. It's just a wonderful venue. I could watch them do anything in that venue. Blue Note Records, Beyond the Notes, is all about the, if you know Blue Note Records, it's an American jazz label, and it was formed in the late 1930s by German Jewish refugees. And it emerged over subsequent years as really an iconic label. And so this goes into the archival materials and interviews with the central figures and the usual documentary approach. But it's just such an interesting subject. There's nothing particularly remarkable about the way about this is put together, but it's a great subject. Blue Note is an amazing label, and if you're not familiar with it, you will be after the end of that. That's just really, really superb. Few more here. Almost all on the opera front. Madame Butterfly, as performed by the Glyndebourne Chorus and the London Philharmonic Orchestra. Very, very nice staging. I've seen a few versions of this. The music is the thing. Puccini you can't really go wrong. But this is a good staging. It doesn't really transcend the others. It's just there. It measures up very nicely with them. Mozart's Don Giovanni from C major and Rai-Com. This is also at the Arena di Verona with the Arena di Verona Orchestra and Chorus. Beautifully, beautifully done by no less than Franco Zeffirelli. Just want to point that out when he was still alive. Zeffirelli left us recently, but this was done in 2015, and it is beautiful staging. Zeffirelli did more operas than he did films, I think.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, from 2015, just before I may have been even the last thing that he did. So, Mozart's Don Giovanni. We also have Puccini's Le Villi with the Orchestra e Coro and del Maggio Musicale Fiorentino. I'm not terribly familiar with Le Villi, originally composed and performed in 1924, but it's fine. It's not the greatest Puccini, but it's fine. It's good. Let's see. We've also got Richard Strauss's Salome. Really a very, very nice staging. Conducted. This is the Vienna Philharmonic, conducted by Franz Welser Most. And, it's a very postmodern, modernist version of Salome. It's very kind of aggressively minimalist, and it's fine. The music, again, is the thing here. Alfredo Casella's La Donna Serpente. Not familiar with this at all. Don't particularly care for it. Don't really know what it's all about. Kind of gave up about a half an hour in. It's a little too weird for me. The beautiful serpent, I guess, is what it technically is. This is with the orchestra and chorus, Teatro Regio Torino of Torino. And, if you know what I'm talking about, you'll go, then just go for it. It's not my thing. And then the last three here are really, really wonderful. Tchaikovsky's Pique Dame, the Queen of Spades, with the Vienna Philharmonic, and Maris Janssen's conducting it, is absolutely wonderful. It's, Tchaikovsky's not known for opera, but this is amazing. And Tchaikovsky's music really does lend itself to opera. Really, really beautiful. Might be the most enjoyable production of any of the operas that I've mentioned today. And then the Verbier Festival, the 25th anniversary concert. The Verbier Festival and with the chamber orchestra. This is classical music events around the year have like a handful of very, very prominent festivals. And the Verbier Festival is one of the most prominent. It's only been around for 25 years, but it's really, really ascended to being a place where the very best musicians all want to go and perform, and the audiences love it, and it's absolutely wonderful. Verbier, of course, is in Switzerland, for those who don't know. This was July of 2018, last year. And some amazing performances here. The Brandenburg Concerto by Bach, Mozart's Ave Verum Corpus, the Slavonic Dances by Dvorak. Really, really just lovely stuff. It's worth checking out. It's a great festival and a lovely Blu-ray. And then the last one is from is Opus Arte, continuing to release some really, really great productions of Shakespearean stage plays from the Royal Shakespeare Company. This is the full collection of the Roman plays, which includes the 4: Julius Caesar, Antony and Cleopatra, along with Coriolanus and Titus Andronicus. It's a great quartet of plays. They share only the Roman Empire and Roman history backdrop, but they're all really good. Even Titus Andronicus, which was Shakespeare's first play and I'd say maybe even his worst. Yeah. But
I love what Julie Tremor did with it back in the day with Anthony Hopkins.
She filled in. She really filled it in with a lot of stuff. Coriolanus also was a film. All of these have been made as films, but to see them.
Ralph Fiennes made a Coriolanus.
He did, also not very good. Yeah. But the staging of them here is quite good. So it's worth checking out all of these. This is a really, especially for Shakespeare buffs, great box set. The Roman plays from the Royal Shakespeare Company: Coriolanus, Titus Andronicus, Julius Caesar, and Antony and Cleopatra.
Alrighty,
right. All right. Let's get into new movies.
Well, I got a couple of new movies and then a couple of docs that we'll check out. Let's start with X-Men: Dark Phoenix. What a mess!
I didn't even see it.
I had to see it for the show.
Yeah.
But I was going to see it anyway. More or less the culmination of the whole. Although Logan should have been. But here's the problem with this series, this X-Men series, because they tend to do that thing in the X-Men series where they go backwards into the past. Right? X-Men, Days of Future Past, all of that kind of stuff. And they do things in the X-Men saga. And then when they make a new movie, they do not account for the things that they did in that movie that was set in the past. They just ignore it. As if some stuff that happened in that movie that you set in 1988 didn't happen in the 15 films that have been made since, 1988. It's frustrating.
It's really irritating.
And really irritating. They do it with this movie. And if you've seen it, you know exactly what I mean. If you haven't, you can check it out on this. Directed by Simon Kinberg. Here's the thing about Simon. Simon's not a director.
Primarily a writer.
Writer, producer-y kind of guy.
Yep.
Goes Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Go back and you go back. All the other X-Men. He's a producer-y guy, writer-y guy on all of that stuff. Deadpool, producer, all that kind of stuff. What he is not is a director, and it shows up all over this movie. This guy's a producer and a writer, and not a director. So if
interesting,
if
just
you,
different skill sets.
Just a different
Some people
skill
have
set.
them, and some don't.
Yeah, and he didn't know how to pull off. Anyway, this thing is this Blu-ray is packed with all sorts of deleted scenes and features and the rise of the Phoenix and all that kind of stuff. So audio commentary by Simon and a few other people, but it is just extremely disappointing what they do over there with the X-Men, except for Logan. Logan should have been it.
So not worth the 4K, but is it worth a rental?
It's worth a rental, perhaps, if you simply want to understand how to make a mess of a series. Where you're not, then go ahead and rent that thing. Luc Besson, Anna is the name of this movie. Luc Besson.
Yeah.
Luc,
Isn't he just remaking From Nikita?
Luke, it's a film about this young, beautiful Russian model who has within her the ability to unlock her skills as an assassin, one of the most dangerous assassins ever. And there are all these other assassins, and she's fine, and she goes around kicking ass and taking names.
Are we going to get
I've
Anna
seen this movie 5 times.
Are we going to get Anna v. Nikita? That'd be kind of cool, like Alien versus Predator, and then the winner of that goes against the winner of Alien versus Predator, and the winner of that goes, I don't know.
What are you going to do? But he gets a cast. He's got Luke Evans. He's got Cillian Murphy. He's got Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
But they're making the same movie that this made 15 years ago. Cut it out, Luke. Now we have Dolph Lundgren in a film called Tracker, which is actually not a bad film at all. Basically, he's this guy who took his wife and daughter on a vacation in Italy 10, 15 years ago. They get kidnapped. All kinds of things go bad. They're killed. It's 10 years later. Gets a phone call from a cop in that small town in Italy. Thinks he might have an idea what happened to his family. He goes back. By the time he gets there, the detective, has committed suicide. Something is awry. Luke decides that this time he's going to figure out what went down, and he uses his skill as a hunter and a tracker to kill a whole bunch of people because he's Dolph Lundgren. That's what he does. This is actually pretty good. I rather enjoyed it. In the mode of all the Taken films, except for more revengey than those per se. Couple of quick docs. This is one was from the director of Gleason, about the football player. Executive produced by hip-hop star J. Cole. This is a film about these 2 young black men, Darcel and Darnell. They follow these kids for 8 years as they grow up in Omaha, Nebraska. Black family growing up in fairly racially
corn country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this is interesting because black families, black folk have been in Omaha going back. Malcolm X was born in Omaha. His father was a preacher in Omaha. That history. And what it has meant and what it means to grow up as young black men. These are 2 young twin black boys growing up in Omaha. Is what this movie is about. And it's a fascinating film. How much of the legacy of things like what happened to Malcolm X's father. His father was hung, lynched in Omaha. Some of the first filmmakers, some of the first African-American black filmmakers came out of Omaha. The Johnson brothers, Noble Johnson and his brother George Johnson, created the Lincoln Motion Picture Company in Omaha before they came here. So it's a fascinating film out of Omaha about these young twin boys growing up in Omaha.
Outstanding.
We lost Toni Morrison not too terribly long ago.
Yes, and thank God she was able to be a part of this documentary.
Yeah. I think we lost her maybe about a month after
about a month after the documentary came out. Yeah.
Toni Morrison, The Pieces I Am. It's an absolutely it's beautiful.
It is
deep dive into. Toni didn't even start writing.
She was an editor.
She was over 40 when she decided to actually start writing. Created a new voice, a new genre. This film goes deeply into that. How for years and how eventually other writers had to shame the Nobel Committee into ultimately giving her a Nobel Prize because she probably should have won a Nobel Prize 20 years before, Bluest Eye or something like that. They had to shame them into ultimately giving her that prize. A beautiful film. Walter Mosley, Oprah Winfrey, so many voices. From
everybody, and especially her longtime friend and editor with whom she worked as an editor for many, many years, has some wonderful insights. But what I most love about this doc...
Hilton Alls.
Yes. What I most love about this doc is the insight into her creative process.
Yeah.
Because if you're a writer, if you're any kind of a writer, if you're a creative writer, if you're a nonfiction writer, if you're anybody who struggles with the written word, she has an approach to that because she's been an editor.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a different skill set to be an editor versus a writer. To have both those skill sets is a godsend.
Yeah.
And so she is able to approach the written word in a way philosophically I've never seen anyone else do.
Yeah.
And I was almost in tears watching this because there are moments where she will say something about writing and the writing process, and I just started to tear up, and I was like, no one's ever been able to articulate that before. Like, I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
I know what that feels like, and she just put it into words, and it just goes right to your heart. It's really a beautiful, beautiful documentary.
Yeah,
Can't recommend it highly enough.
Special features, deleted scenes, and several other things. So a wonderful, wonderful homage.
So a few other new films. Let me put the DVDs out here. One DVD and one Blu-ray that are kind of a little bit off the beaten path. The Adventures of Dally and Spanky. That is the name of a film, folks. The Adventures of Dally and Spanky, which happens to co-star Denise Richards and Trace Adkins. What? How does this happen?
Trace Adkins.
Okay, so this is based presumably on a true story I never heard of about a dog and a pony who were best friends.
An actual dog and pony show.
Actual dog and pony show, an honest-to-goodness, down-to-earth dog and pony show. And it became like some kind of an online viral sensation or something. Jack Russell Terrier and a little miniature horse. It's not like a full. It's not like It's not like a Saint Bernard and a Clydesdale. That would be. Hey, there you go. There's an idea for a movie. No, these are little things. It's a little Jack Russell Terrier and a little miniature horse, which you can take on the plane now. By the way, if it's a support animal, you can bring your miniature horse on the plane. Or to Disneyland.
I don't even want to talk about
that. It actually winds up being, despite all my mockery of the concept, it winds up being a really sweet film. And it's all about how these animals came together, and these two half sisters who have all these family struggles, and their dad has died, and it really is a family story, and the animals are part of the family, and the animals are also kind of therapy for the loss. And honestly, once you watch it and you realize how sweet it is in its core, you realize that's why Denise Richards and Trace Adkins did it, because they probably thought, "Are you kidding me?" And then they read the script and they thought, "Oh, that's really sweet." Oddly enough, you know what's missing from this? The dove seal.
Really?
Yeah.
You think the dove seal would be right on that thing?
We get like a dozen movies a week that have the dove seal on it, and I get this, and I'm like,
there's something in that movie that the dove people didn't approve.
Yeah, I wonder what the deal is there. Anyway, there's that. Then we also have Artik, Artik, which has some really kind of creepy artwork on it, and this is a serial killer. This is kind of a serial killer story. It is grueling and it is creepy. It's a little bit cheap, but it winds up kind of rectifying that at the end and becomes a better movie than it really has any business being. It's from Epic, and this is about a serial killer and his son. And it's very, very disturbing. And there's a comic book angle to it that's a little bit tweaked. And it's you do go through beats with this thing. You'll like it for a minute, and then you'll think, oh, now it's taken a turn that I don't really approve of, and then it rights itself again, and you go, well, that's really interesting and intelligent. I wish it was more intelligent than it is, because it had promise, but it's certainly better than 85% of what normally comes out in that genre, for sure. And then the last two here, kind of A-list independent Blu-ray releases this week. A Score to Settle is yet another Nicolas Cage movie, which is better than what he's been doing lately. It's a revenge tale. It's pretty formulaic. It's pretty straightforward, but it has a better cast than a lot of what he's done lately. Benjamin Bratt's in it, who always kind of upscales everything that he's in. And Sean Koo is not a bad director. And as far as revenge films go, and especially as far as Nick Cage revenge films go, it's he's an ex-con, and he's got to reconnect with his kid, and then also kind of get some payback. And for a genre formula film, he does a better. He's not overacting for a change. It's kind of like the old Nick Cage.
Yeah.
So he
has not Mandy.
Not Mandy. So sometimes I think he tends to have better directors that just know how to sort of take him back down to earth. I miss the old Nick Cage, so it's nice even in a mediocre movie when that comes back. And then lastly, what an odd movie, Mary Magdalene. They almost didn't send this to us. We had to kind of beg them for it a little bit. The Mary Magdalene was touted rather substantially at a certain point, and then everybody kind of ran the other way. Joaquin Phoenix, who is apparently going to be an Oscar nominee again for Joker. Has anyone ever played the Joker and Jesus in the same year? Is he the first one?
I'm going to say yeah.
Probably.
I'm going to go with yeah.
Yeah. First guy to play Joker and Jesus in the same year. So
I haven't seen Joker yet, but you haven't seen it?
Haven't seen it yet.
Haven't seen it yet, by the way. And I'm hearing. I see the one Mark covered.
Yeah.
And it better be good to knock Jack Nicholson out of the box.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson's my Joker dude.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson. I know the boy Heath and all that, but I'm sorry, it was always Jack for me.
Still Cesar Romero for me.
Still Caesar.
Yeah,
still
Caesar.
We're old school.
But anyway, so Joaquin Phoenix plays Jesus. He's too old to play Jesus, by the way. He's a little bit older than 33.
Yeah.
And Rooney Mara plays Mary Magdalene. Suitable because they're a real life couple. So there's a lot of sort of implied and not so implied stuff going on here. How accurate is it? Now, I am something of a nerd for Jesus movies, most of which are terrible. So I'm always looking for something that is more down to earth, more sort of locked into what scholars believe. And there aren't very many of them. There aren't any of them, really. However, looking at it through the eyes of Mary Magdalene, interesting approach. Does it fully work? In fits and starts. It takes a lot of liberties. Joaquin Phoenix insisted on taking a lot of liberties. Chiwetel Ejiofor playing the Apostle Paul. I mean,
no.
Yes,
no.
Great
performance by him, by the way.
It's a good performance,
but no.
But I know we can stretch a lot. But see, Joaquin Phoenix playing Jesus also no.
We're already know. So anybody can play. He can play the other guy.
Yeah. Tahar Rahim is actually the best thing in this, to be honest. But most people here don't necessarily know who he is.
That film had a real sort of, and it came out. I guess it was a little bit after the whole sort of Me Too dynamic.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a Me Too thing going on in that movie because basically the apostles are kind of messing with Mary and not being cool with the girl, and she already has all the issues with the dad and all that kind of stuff. In the film, she goes to Jesus like Jesus is HR or something like that.
I know.
She's like, yo, Jesus. The guys are not being cool.
Can you rein them in?
And I'm like, I don't know, guys.
That never happened.
We're insinuating a whole lot of stuff.
A lot.
From the 21st century.
An awful lot.
Into this movie.
So you get interviews and featurettes and behind-the-scenes stuff on here, which is fine, which is fun. I'm not going to not recommend the film, but it does come with some big reservations.
Yeah.
Big reservations. Tim, you got some PBS stuff.
Yeah, some really interesting sort of doc stuff, including, of course, we're 50-year anniversary of Apollo 11. There has been no shortage of films.
Keeps on trucking.
But you know what? What's particularly these docs, every single one of them has something new in it.
Yep.
Every single one of them has something to tout that we have never seen or heard or something before. It's constructed in a particular way. Every one of the docs is better than that feature film, First Man.
Yeah.
Every one of the docs is better than the feature film. This one is 8 Days to the Moon and Back, the inside story of Apollo 11. And what this has is hours of access to classified cockpit audio recorded by the astronauts themselves that has never been heard before. Even in that doc that came out a little bit earlier this summer, which had hours and hours of 35 millimeter and 70 millimeter footage, which also had never been seen before. It seems like it's almost like World War II. The deeper you dig into the space program, the more. And I do love that that filmmakers, that the folks who were running the program had the presence of mind some 50 years ago to use film and audio and videotape to record every possible moment of this undertaking that they could, so that we have that record now. And I cannot understand how there are still people out there who are deniers
It's a little weird. That's why every once in a while, just to make myself feel good, I will put on that YouTube video of Buzz Aldrin clocking that dude.
Yeah,
it's just so great. The guy goes run, and it's beautiful. If you haven't seen it, it's great because this guy, he's always harassing. He's a conspiracy theorist. He's always harassing astronauts and whoever, and he's got his own camera guy. Yeah. And he's saying to the guy, he's like, oh, okay, there he is. Hey, we're gonna really corner Buzz Aldrin. And his camera guy, they run across the street, and the camera's following him. And he runs up to Buzz Aldrin. He's like, oh, you didn't really walk on the moon, did you? And Buzz Aldrin, who's like 80 years old at the time, and he's like, whap, and he clocks him in the face. It's a beautiful thing.
It's a truly beautiful thing.
Go
get him, Buzz.
Buzz, you so earned that, man. You went to the moon and back. You were the only reason you were not the first man on the moon was because they knew that you were a hothead, and they didn't kind of want to reward that hotheadedness. But you know what? You were the second man, and damn it all, Neil Armstrong is gone. And if anybody's going to hold it down, you hold it down. Somebody questions that, you let them have it. You have earned that right.
To Buzz, he'll punch you in the face. I had the wonderful opportunity to interview Buzz in his condo. Buzz.
Can you imagine somebody trying to bring him up on assault charges? The judge would look at you and go, Buzz Aldrin, man, what the hell's wrong with you?
You should be proud.
Buzz
proud. Aldrin punched you in your face, your stupid face.
It's like what Dave Chappelle says in Sticks and Stones, where it's so politically incorrect, but it's so funny. He says, I don't think Michael Jackson molested those kids, but if he did, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's Michael Jackson.
Yeah, hey. What was that kid wearing? What do we got here? We got When Whales Walk, Journeys into the Deep. This is a fascinating PBS documentary about an epic sort of evolution through sea life, reptiles and mammals that many millennia again walked around as dinosaurs and birds. There's this wonderful, wonderful sort of conflagration of where birds and whales and crocodiles and all of these things were all sort of the same thing. Many years ago. This is really just a great film. Lots of fantastic 3D animation in this. And it's just an exciting sort of explanation of where things came from, and a sort of imaginative, speculative sort of imagination of what these creatures might have looked like many millions of years ago. And I just think it's great. I love all of these things, and you should check it out. This one's from 2009, and it's really good. June 4th, 1989. It's the day that the uprising in Tiananmen Square came to an end when the Chinese government unleashed the tanks and the soldiers and killed several thousand people. I remember watching the Tiananmen Square uprisings on television, on the news. They were covered by the news. And there was this brief moment when we thought that perhaps there might be this sea change in China. But the Chinese government put it into all of that quite brutally on June 4th, 1989. Tiananmen, people versus the party. That's what this film is all about. And it's a perfectly fascinating film to watch, particularly in the context of where we see China is today, which, of course, is still a communist totalitarian nation, yet not the communist totalitarian nation that it was in 1989 and before. It's not. They're rich people in China.
They are not practicing Marxist economics, but the authoritarian ideological social control end of it is still very much there.
It's still very much there.
Still very much that system,
But, you can make some money in China. So anyhow, absolutely fantastic a miniseries there. World War Speed. This is a very, very interesting doc. Of course, we know that the Russians used, the Russians and the Germans, for that matter, particularly the Germans, used all kinds of methamphetamines, particularly toward the end of the war, to keep their soldiers fighting and awake and engaged in battle. We know, for that matter, that Hitler did too.
Yep.
What we did not know is that so did the British and the Americans. And some of the very original pharmacological, particularly as we look at the sort of OxyContin epidemic that we're going into now, it began way back then when they started experimenting with all sorts of drugs to keep American soldiers and British soldiers awake and alert, flying those B-52s. And it's just, it's an amazing thing. A lot of soldiers came back from the war.
Messed up.
Hooked.
Addicted.
Before we knew what it was. It wasn't like after Vietnam or even after some of the more recent wars. We didn't know what that was at the time. but it was actually something that we did. It's called methamphetamines, and
Yeah.
an amazing story. Yet again, another amazing story coming out of World War II. It just never seems to stop. Ancient Skies, the TV miniseries, PBS TV, beautiful CGI landscape footage of some of the world's most astounding astronomical artifacts. So they're taking a look at the sky using many of the world's largest radio and other telescopes all over the planet, Arecibo and everything else, and doing all of this imaging of the skies. And then they're using CGI to sort of enhance these images for ever greater impact and effect. Again, just an absolutely wonderful, wonderful documentary. And I love the way it talks about what the skies, what the cosmos, what these ancient sort of scenes looked like thousands upon thousands of years ago. They can map back and tell you that if you were looking at this sky 5,000 years ago, this is what you would have seen.
Oh, that's great.
And I just
love that. I love that
that
stuff.
It's
I
just
love
the neatest
that.
thing. PBS.
I sit there, all that stuff. That's why I watch those animated maps that show you like borders changing over 5,000 years. All those kinds of animated through the time map. I love all that.
Yeah, where that river used to run,
I love all that stuff.
Before there was a mountain there.
Yeah.
Ken Burns, who of course is the nation's a documentarian, has created country music. Of course, he did jazz, baseball. I mean, we know that Ken Burns. So look, the thing that these films that Ken makes, they're relatively speaking exhaustive about the subject.
Yeah,
he's pretty much making them the same way his entire career. They're very straightforward docs with that sort of Ken Burns effect and the talking heads, and it's very clean and it's very organized. But I think that I deeply appreciate that about a Ken Burns doc.
Yeah, I do too.
He's not trying to do anything fancy. He's not trying to remake the way documentaries are made. He's simply trying to be exhaustive and complete about the subject.
He's delivering material in a way that he understands we are most acclimated to receiving it.
Yeah.
It's very easy to watch a Ken Burns film, and it just sort of washes over you, and he's really mastered that in a beautiful way. It feels you don't see the technique, you don't see the work. It's very polished and smooth.
Yeah, and it's funny how many filmmakers have taken up this. This is a really fascinating. What I love that he does here is he looks at it so comprehensively that you come to understand that music in America. Country music in America is Native American music. It's African American music.
All of that.
It's all of that.
Yeah.
There's elements of jazz and in all of these through lines. And when you listen to this music and you hear some of that old school, I'm talking Porter Wagner type country music with a little bit of yodeling and all of that.
Yep.
And you go back and you listen to some of those Native American chants from those Native American tribes that were spotted all over the Midwest and in Florida, the Alabamas, and you listen to that and you overlay that with some of that country music and you realize, oh my goodness. I didn't even know how these things were really all sort of one thing. It's a really, really great doc. If you think that country music is something dumb and you don't like, look at this film, and I think you'll come away with it. You might not come away with loving country music, but you're going to come away from it understanding country music and all of the music and where it sort of comes
Beautiful.
from. Much better.
Yep. It's an unusual subject for him, too. I wouldn't have normally expected him to do that. But. Yeah. And then we've also got some PBS Kid vid here from PBS Kids. The first one is the Berenstain Bears, Treehouse Tales, Volume 1. I used to call them the Berenstain Bears. They're apparently not Jewish. But I'm not sure Berenstain really, now I'm picturing something else. So, but anyway, the Treehouse Tales is an awful lot of Berenstain Bears. I don't particularly love the show, and my daughter doesn't. It's like a little too arcane for her. But 26 episodes here, and they're all, these sweet bear family and the lessons they learn, and there it is. So I there's nothing else really to tell you. It's just 26 hours and 5 hours worth of Berenstain Bears. That floats your boat. A little bit more my speed is Dinosaur Train, Dinosaurs, Big and Small. Dinosaur Train is a terrific show. My daughter watched this continually when she was really small. Still really responds to it. Still likes it. And if you don't know it, it's basically the story of a dinosaur family that lives in a world that's a little bit like Zootopia. And, you know, dinosaurs they have a civilization, they talk and they travel, and there's a dinosaur train where they go places. And this is all as a pretext for a paleontologist who I think co-created the show to give you little intermittent lessons every once in a while on different types of dinosaurs and what it was really like. Fully educational, really smart, comes from the Henson Company. And they're well written, they're well animated. It's a really sharp show. It's exactly what parents should want their kids watching. 10 episodes here, including a couple of two-parters, Mom Was a Kid Once and A Brand New Species, which are both outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And then there's a few others that are really good. We're Not All Dinosaurs, Don's Holiday, How Many Horns, really, really, really fun stuff. But it's those two big two-parters that are terrific. Mom Was a Kid Once, and A Brand New Species. Really, really good stuff.
Fantastic. Do some of these?
Classically, yeah. Let me hit some foreign. Let me knock out some foreign stuff first. I also want to make mention for people who are fans of foreign. You know, Music Box Films releases a lot of really great foreign stuff, including a lot of stuff that they pick up at the Colcoa Film Festival, the French Film Festival here in Los Angeles, which
coming up soon.
Coming up, I'm moderating the delegation panel next week. And it's a really good lineup. Normally, we're in April for the Colcoa Festival. This year, we're at in the fall because the DGA Theater where they have them has just been remodeled. So it's been remodeled all year. We're going to get a great new experience in that theater. But also, Music Box Films has launched a streaming service, and it's Music Box Direct. It's really, really worth checking out. It's only $5 a month, and that's a total bargain. I know this stuff can all add up, but if you really like their library, you're going to want to check this out. Aida, the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series, Aida won the Academy Award. These are all part of their library, and it's a really impressive library. They've really done a very good job of putting it together so far. And I would say definitely go and check out, go to musicboxfilms.com and read more about it and see if this is something that you want to sign up for. There's a 7-day trial code when you go to musicboxfilms.com. And so that, they'll let you have a full week of kind of exploring the library. I think it's a really great service, and I think it's really worth checking out. So big push there for Music Box Films. And let me hit a few foreign things, and then I'll turn you over to a couple of those classics. From Wellgo, we have Kung Fu League, which I actually had a really a good time with. Kung Fu films have diminished in recent years, especially the ones that come out of China, which is everybody who used to make films in Hong Kong, and now they've all gone Mandarin speaking as opposed to Cantonese, and it just isn't the same thing anymore. But every once in a while, something will really, really work beautifully. And this is from Jeffrey Lau, the director. And it's in Mandarin, but it feels like a Hong Kong film. It's really smart, it's really sharp, it's really fun, and it's a great cast. Especially, look, 3 of these people, not legends. Danny Chan, Andy On, Dennis To, not legends. Vincent Zhao, big legend, because he stepped into the Once Upon a Time in China series momentarily, briefly, when Jet Li stepped away. And he is for real. He's done a lot of great movies in the 90s. He's timeless. He's ageless. He's a really, really sharp guy. So Kung Fu League is an awful lot of fun. And then also worth checking out is Intimacy, which is from the director Yichun Jiang. This is only on DVD. This is from Indie Pix. You can also watch it on their Prime Video channel on Amazon. This is about... It is a very artsy film, but really very affecting, about 2 young people trying to sort of find their path in life while living in Shanghai. And it's a character study. It is a look at alienation in modern-day China in a way that I'm surprised they actually were able to get the film made, because it's not that flattering, and it asks some very difficult questions. But they got it made, and it's really quite a beautiful film. Check it out. It's called Intimacy.
I want to do a few of these?
Yeah, do a few of those.
All right, let's get at some of this sort of classic-y type stuff, starting with Moonchild, 1989 film.
Yep.
sort of a cult classic, this movie.
Totally.
About this African tribe that believes that a white child, a moon child, a child from the moon, will come and become that god. And this little white boy who's living in Europe with this sort of scientific organization, he has extrasensory perception. He comes to believe that he is the child who's meant to become the moon child for this African tribe, and it's about his escaping this scientific cult and traveling across 2 continents to engage with it. It's quite a film. 1989 from Spain. Agustí Villaronga is the name of the director. It's really an astounding film with all sorts of metaphorical sort of things going on in it. It's really lovely. Special features here include a high-definition transfer from the original 35mm print and an interview with the director. It's a good movie. I saw this movie back in 1989.
Cult epics.
Kind of a cult epic.
Epics really, they keep coming up with really interesting stuff.
And then 1990, one of the first films that I did the junket for was Nic Roeg's film The Witches.
Which I surprisingly like more than most Nic Roeg films.
Yeah, well, most Nic Roeg's films are weird. This is weird, too, but it's based on the Roald Dahl book, so he has to sort of like follow the script. Wonderful performance from Angelica Houston. It's about a little boy who comes across a convention of witches. He gets turned into a mouse, but he still has to thwart the witches in their dark undertaking. This is really great. Lots of practical effects in this film. With the little boy's witch face and all that kind of stuff, and kind of scary.
Yeah,
this is not for the faint of heart, and certainly not for small children. It's rated PG. It is rated PG, but I don't know. Measure your kid before you show him witches. know where your kid is coming from. 1990 film. That's from the Warner Archive collection. Bette Davis, Jezebel. This is one of the greatest Bette Davis films ever made. Louisiana Henry Fonda in the film is fantastic. William Wyler. Bette Davis at the top of her game, playing that character that Betty likes to play.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff.
And
also from the Warner Icon.
And I think Jezebel is a better period film of its type than most of the other movies of that time. I would say even more so than something like Gone with the Wind. I think there is stuff in Jezebel that is that stands the test of time a little better. I think so.
Yeah, that classic Betty performance.
All right, thank you, everybody. That's it for us this week. We will be back next week. And in the meantime, thank you to Charles Bunce and to Brian Hansen for doing the interview with us for The Black String. And we wish them well with their festivals. And meanwhile, the short film Refugee that I was a producer on, that my wife was a producer on, that is currently in Oscar qualifying release here in Los Angeles at the Royal in West Los Angeles, 4 p.m. every day until the 26th. If you're in Los Angeles, please come down and see it. You might bump into us. We're going to be there around 4 p.m. just about every day or most days. So Refugee is the short film. Hope you come and see it. Tim's going to finish his film soon, too.
Yeah,
so we're going to have good stuff. All right, everybody. Have a great week.